Hello and welcome to the next edition of the BriefingsDirect Voice of the Customer podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing discussion on digital transformation success stories. Our next industrial edge innovation use case examines how RealWear and HPE MyRoom combine to provide workers in harsh conditions ease in accessing and interacting with the best intelligence. We'll now learn how a hands-free, voice-activated, and multimedia wearable computer is solving the last few feet issue for delivering a business's best data and visual assets to some of its most critical on-site workers. Here to describe the new high watermark for wearable augmented collaboration technologies are Jan Josephson, Sales Director for EMEA at RealWear. Welcome to the show, Jan.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
We're glad to have you with us. We're also joined by John J.T. Thurgood, Director of Sales for UK, Ireland, and Benelux at RealWear. Welcome to the show, J.T.
Thank you, Dana. Good to be here. Nice to meet you.
There's a variety of technologies that are coming together, that are combining in order to create the RealWear solution. Tell us why this has to be a multimedia, multi-mix sort of collaborative stew in order to get the job done, J.T.
Well, it's a great question, Dana. I think that as we're seeing over time, our industrial workers move through their digitization journey right the way through to maintaining and managing equipment in the field. You need a range of tools and data to do that. So it could be an engineer that's wearing personal protective equipment in the field. He could be up a tower, scaffolding. And you know what? Today, what he does is he takes around a big bundle of paperwork with him. And those have schematics on board. They've got all sorts of authorization dockets. This is typically what an engineer takes on the field. And what we're really trying to do is make his life easier. You can imagine, engineer gets to site, he gets permission to be on site, he's got his schematics for the drawings that he takes into the environment he's working in, and his hands are full, and he's trying to balance and juggle everything, and he's trying to work his way through that authorization process prior to him actually getting on and doing the job that he's there for, being the engineer or being a technician. So what we're doing is we're taking that away, taking that need for physical documentation, first of all, away from him. And on our device, which is a totally voice-controlled, hands-free Android tablet, he can view, using a gyroscope that's built into the device, all of those documents, and he can freeze at particular points in the document so that he can refer to it. And the screen he's looking at is held just below eye line. So it's not interfering from a health and safety perspective. It's not stopping him doing his job. He's really got that screen and the speakers that are built into the unit really there to guide him through whatever his process is. And it's not just about looking at documentation. So he can follow works order processing. He can, when he hits a brick wall, when he gets to that problem where he says, I've followed my work processes, I've gone through my documentation, and this just doesn't look right. What does he do? Well, he needs to phone a buddy, right? And the way he does that is he uses the VRG MyRoom solution from HPE, and he gets his expert on the line, and that expert can be thousands of miles away, and the expert can see via his laptop what's going on through the 16 megapixel camera on the RealWear device. So, and he can talk to him. There's 4 noise cancelling microphones on the device. So the expert can say, hey, JT, it's not that thing on the right hand side that you're looking at. Have a look over here. Let's unclip that thing around the back of the device, and let me really give you that detailed guidance as to how to solve the problem. Dana, typically that would take weeks of waiting for an expert to be available. The cost involved in getting the guy on site to go and resolve that issue is expensive. Now we're enabling that end technician to get the assistance he needs whilst he's at the right place at the right time.
This certainly has a general purpose applicability in the field, but I wonder, what was the impetus to create the HMT1? Was there a specific use case or demand that spurred the design?
So our CTO, Dr. Chris Parkinson, was working in another organization who are focused on manufacturing the military-grade screens on this device. And, he really then saw that there was an application in enterprise that he wanted to fulfill. And as you've highlighted, whether it's in the oil and gas industry or in automotive, construction, I've even actually had journalists wanting to use this device, like a mobile cameraman. So he saw a wide range of use cases, and so really worked with a team that he then built around him with our CEO, Andy Lowry, to pull together a device which is IP66 rated. It's hardened. It can fall 2 meters. This is really a device that you can use out in those weathers, minus 20 centigrade to plus 50, to do all sorts of different jobs. So really the impetus was there's nothing in the marketplace today that provides exactly this. People today are using iPads and tablets to do this job. But of course, your hands are full, right? You can't do the rest of the tasks that you need to do. So over the course of a couple of years, RealWear, we built this device, and we've now got over 10,000 out in the field in all sorts of industrial areas. I've named a few verticals so far, but we're really discovering for ourselves even new verticals day by day.
And Jan, what were some of the requirements that led you to collaborate with HPE on the MyRoom and the visual remote guidance? Why did that become such a good fit?
Well, there's a couple of things that HPE does extremely well in this field. And if we go into the sort of the remote expert application in particular, the way that HPE actually designed their application, from a UX perspective, because at the end of the day, we've got users out there, and many of them are not, they're field engineers. So the UX side of an application is very important. You can't have a lot of things clogging up your screen and making things complicated. It has to be super simple, right? The other thing that they've done really good, and which is really important for us, for our customers, is the way they do compression with their application. Because many times, if you're out on an oil rig or in the middle of nowhere, you're not always in the luxury of a Wi-Fi or a great 4G network. You're in the field, right? So the way that their application is doing the compression, enabling very high quality video at a very low bandwidth is very important for a lot of our customers. The other thing which is interesting that they are actually showcasing here right now, which actually the first, is that they are taking their platform and enabling it to be an on-premises platform. And this is also becoming important for especially the larger organization, because it has to do with security. They want to have a complete solution on the inside of their firewall in control, and that's actually the first time they've showed this out here today. So it's a very impressive piece of software, and we're very happy that we're in this partnership.
And so it's a cloud application now, but it can become a hybrid cloud application very soon.
And what's really neat, Dana, adding on to what Jan's just said, is that they've now built in object recognition within that tool set. So imagine you're wearing the RealWear HNT, you're looking at a pump, a gas filter, something, some object. It's able to identify that object and provide you with work orders and documentation related to it. So really expanding out from the historic use case of really giving that remote expert, remote visual guidance support into doing so much more. So well done to Gary and the whole team at HPE for really pushing the boundaries out and making that an on-premise solution.
It's a really striking example for me of the newfound power of connecting a core cloud capability with an edge device with full interactivity, but ultimately brings the power of AI running on a data center to that edge and combining it with the best of human intelligence. It's sort of the best of all worlds, and I don't know of too many other examples of that. JT, how is this perhaps going to spur a new kind of edge intelligence capability?
Well, that's another great question, Dana, because what we're seeing, and I'm just going to elaborate slightly on this, 5G is now coming to bear, as well as Wi-Fi. So all of a sudden, you're in your building and you've got your Wi-Fi connectivity. Outside, you've got 5G. You have devices that are now always connected. So we're now thinking about connectivity as being ubiquitous. Now, what does that do? Well, it starts to mean that you're not having to think about having an offline device. All of this data, all of your IoT analytics, your augmented and assisted reality is all bearing down and being made available for that user. So we're kind of looking at the superhumans of engineers and technicians, right? Where historically you've had a guy there with paperwork. Well, now he's always connected. He's always got the right documentation with him, and he's able to act and resolve those tasks that he's got to do with all of the power and the assistance he needs. And it's online. It's available right now. So, yeah, what we're going to see, I think, kind of prediction moving ahead, and this isn't rocket science, but we're going to see more of this intellectual value being moved down to the user. And at RealWear, we see ourselves as being a knowledge transfer company. So we want you to use this device as the conduit by which you feed all of that cloud analyzed data. And as time goes by, some of the application will partly reside on the cloud as well as on the local device, because there's a hell of a lot of churning of that data that's required to provide the end result. So that's kind of our prediction.
And you'll be able to achieve that right mix, if you will, of what's best for local and what's best from the cloud, and extend the need for intelligence to any expert around the world. So it's a very powerful concept. Now, RealWear is based in Vancouver, Washington, in the U.S. For those people who are listening, describe this device. It's fairly small and compact, and it resides within a helmet.
So, yeah, what we've got is it's kind of a horseshoe-shaped device with a screen out the front. So typically it's worn within a hat. Let's imagine you've got just a standard cap on your head. It attaches to the cap with two clips on the side, and you've got a screen that protrudes from the front of the device that is held just below your eye line. The camera is actually mounted on the side. Yeah, so it's a head-worn tablet, and worn in hard hats, bump caps, normal baseball caps, or just with straps. So regardless of the environment you're in, be that in, wind gales, working out there in your offshore oil and gas rigs, or if you're an automotive technician working in a noisy garage, it can work with the protective equipment that you need to use in the field.
Now, the economics here is something I'd like to get into. When you can bring this sort of intelligence and instant access to the experts to the edge, wherever it is, you're talking about machinery, you're talking about processes that downtime can mean huge amounts of money. Intercepting a problem early and getting it fixed can make a huge difference. Do you have any examples or use cases, either named or unnamed, where we could get a sense of the qualitative and quantitative benefits when this is put to use?
Yeah, so I think there's a number of examples. Let's take automotive to start with. If you've got a problem with your vehicle today, what you typically do is you take it into your dealership. That dealership will try to resolve that issue as quickly as it can. Let's say the dealership can't. There's a fault on the car that needs some expert assistance. What you'll do is the dealership will phone head office and say, hey, I need an expert to come down and join us. When can you join us? And there's typically a long delay, right? So what does that mean? That means my vehicle's off the road. It means I've got to have a replacement vehicle. It's taking up space on my forecourt, and it's using an expert to come out from head office to spend that time traveling and being on site to resolve that issue. So what could happen now using the RealWear device in conjunction with VRG MyRoom is that engineer can contact that expert and get immediate feedback and assistance on resolving that fault. The customer experience here is vastly improved based on just being able to resolve the issue in a number of minutes, not hours, days, or weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's a good example also because, everyone can relate to this in regards to, if you look at the car industry today, the lifespan of a car model is getting down to 24 months, 2 years. And then there's a facelift upgrade or whatever. What is happening is that, all the manufacturers are pushing in a lot more technology. So when this fairly new car is having a problem, goes into the garage, the chances are that you have the skill set in that garage for your almost computer on wheels right now is very slim. So the whole industry, I would say, have a very big challenge because they have all of these people in the field that needs to learn a lot. So, and doing the traditional way of, let's get them all into a classroom and spend 6 weeks and learn how, it doesn't cut it. So it's all about incident-based, real-time learning, right? So this is also something that where we are participating today with customers to make sure that we are taking the training of all of this. Because obviously the benefit if we can record everything in MyRoom. So if I have a session with and solving this particular problem, I can take that recording, I can make it a little bit, on the finish, and all of a sudden I have value from one to many rather than one to one. And I can start building up my intellectual property, my FIQs. So it's a whole range of values that are being put in front of you.
You're creating an archive, not just a solution at the right time and moment. All right, so for those listeners who are wondering whether this is applicable to their vertical industry or their particular problem set, what are a couple of key questions that they might ask themselves, and what would the answers be in order for them to say, yeah, I really ought to pursue this?
Dana, I'd say, do your technicians and engineers need to use their hands? Do they need to be hands-free? If so, you need a device like this. It's voice-controlled. It's mounted on your head. Do they wear PPE equipment? Have they got to wear gloves? Really difficult kind of trying to use a stylus or trying to poke a screen of a tablet to try and get it to the right point that you need it. So, again, with the RealWear, that's what we're providing you. Totally hands-free, eyes forward, a very safe deployment of technology in the field. So, yeah, I'd say if you need your hands in the field, if you're working outdoors, if you're up towers and so on, it's a good use for the device.
I also think if your business includes field engineers, that also includes traveling, you have to go out there to do stuff, then, just look at those. How many traveling days do you have? And how many times do you have to maybe go back because you forgot something, or it wasn't the right skill set on the first trip? There was something else wrong out there. There's a number of different variables that can actually have impact. And of course, if I can have someone there to validate what we think is wrong and actually potentially fix it, it's a huge savings.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been exploring how RealWear and HPE MyRoom combine to provide workers in harsh conditions ease in accessing and interacting with the best intelligence, both of a graphic nature and a real human warm person. And we've learned how a hands-free voice-activated and multimedia wearable computer is solving the last few feet issue for delivering a business's best data and visual assets to some of its most critical on-site workers. So please join me in thanking our guests. We've been here with Jan Josephson. He's the sales director for EMEA at RealWear. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you very much, Dania.
And also thank you to JT, director of sales for UK, Ireland, and Benelux at RealWear.
Anytime, Dana. Thank you very much.
And a big thank you to our audience as well for joining us for this BriefingsDirect Voice of the Customer Digital Transformation Success Story. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing series of Hewlett Packard Enterprise sponsored interviews. Thanks for listening. Please pass this on to your IT community and do come back next time.